Hello and welcome to Soda Review Channel, where today we'll be drinking this Pepsi, caffeine free. Um, they originally introduced this kind of product in the 80s as Pepsi free around the same time that caffeine free Coca Cola became available. If you want to know more about the history of it, go check out our Diet Pepsi caffeine free video up here for a more in depth discussion. But today, we're just here to talk about caffeine free Pepsi. And yeah, in theory, this should be a lot like regular Pepsi, but without caffeine. I would say that that would be ideal. We'll see if that happens. Notably, they do have this same gold color scheme for caffeine free that Coca Cola does, but they don't do the top. Probably for cost reasons, I would have to imagine, because silver is the standard can top color. Kind of smells like Pepsi. I mean, I would hope it would smell like Pepsi. Very fizzy at first, going down somewhat quickly. There's still a lot of bubbles in the glass. I did have a Pepsi earlier today for comparison. It smells pretty similar, if not identical. And let's uh, let's try it out. Okay, so that's not the worst thing I've ever tasted. Um, but it does not taste like a regular Pepsi. Hmm. Hmm. All right. Is there something going on with this ingredient list? Let's compare it to this regular Pepsi. Obviously, this is a larger container, so the amounts will be different. The distribution should be the same. Carbonated water, high fructose corn syrup, sure. Caramel color, sugar, phosphoric acid, then caffeine in this one, citric acid, natural flavor. Okay, so all the ingredients except for the caffeine are the same, and they're in the same order. But this tastes considerably different. Hmm. Now, we did recently review caffeine free Coca Cola, and there was a slight flavor difference with that drink, but it was only slight. Um, of course, they don't remove the caffeine, uh, at least in Coca Cola, and I assume in Pepsi also. They just don't add it. It's its own ingredient. It's not part of some other thing. But caffeine does have a bit of flavor on its own, and without it, drinks tend to be a bit sweeter. And I guess maybe this is a bit sweeter than a regular Pepsi, but the flavor is also a bit plainer. I guess this is what I'm thinking. I normally get a little bit of like a fruitiness from a Pepsi that I don't really get from a Coke. I think that's one of the things that really makes Pepsi stand out against Coke. Um, because despite what some people will say, they really don't taste the same. This doesn't have as much of that, if any. I don't think it's just an awful drink, but I don't think it really tastes like a Pepsi. Whereas with caffeine free Coke, there's something a little bit off about it, but it does taste like a Coke. And I think if you weren't paying that much attention, uh, or if you didn't know that it wasn't um, a normal Coke, especially if you're not someone who pays a lot of attention to the minute flavor differences in soda, I think it could pass for regular Coke. Now, that said, I might be doing that thing where um, how do I put this? I might be doing the XKCD thing where you're gonna have to look this up if you don't know what I'm talking about. Where people who know what they're talking about overestimate the knowledge of people who don't. Um, for all I know, to someone who's not paying attention to soda, this just tastes like a normal Pepsi. Like to someone who thinks that a regular Coke and a regular Pepsi taste the same, I imagine this also tastes the same. But to me, it doesn't. And so I do have to judge it on that. And I don't think it's a bad drink on its own, but I do think that it's not the experience I was hoping for, because I was hoping for something that was very, very similar to a regular Pepsi. And I guess it's similar, but it doesn't have that sort of fruity liveliness that I expect from Pepsi. I would say it's a more generic cola flavor. And I don't know if that means that the flavor of Pepsi is more dependent on caffeine than the flavor of Coca Cola. I guess it does. But I don't know. If you can't have caffeine for whatever reason, and you really want the flavor of a Pepsi, maybe you've been diagnosed with a medical condition and can't have caffeine anymore. Maybe it's late at night and you don't want to mess up your sleep that night. For whatever reason, if what you really want is the flavor of a Pepsi, this is not that. And so I don't know that it really needs to exist in this form. It's a perfectly okay drink, but it doesn't have that Pepsi flavor. And I think that that's that's a big problem for this drink because its whole reason for existing is to give you that Pepsi flavor without the caffeine. And it doesn't do that. So what score do I give this drink? Completely in a vacuum, I would say on flavor alone, it would probably be somewhere in the range of a higher okay or a lower good. But it's supposed to taste like Pepsi. And I won't deny that it's a cola. It has a cola flavor to it. But it doesn't really have that signature Pepsi taste. And that is going to push it towards the lower end of that score range. And so, while it's certainly not a bad drink, I am going to have to give Pepsi caffeine free just an okay.